Hey man, say man, we got big news. We know that Shakur is finally getting the Williams Zepeda fight. We just recently heard that Shakur Stevenson has chunked the deuce to Eddie Hearn and left Matchroom Boxing. But I got some of the details on what went down behind the scenes. We're going to get into all of that. But before we do, make sure you hit the like button, subscribe to the channel. Let's cook on it. So let's get straight to it. I ain't finna waste none of y'all time. We know that Shakur Stevenson is no longer with Matchroom and Eddie Hearn. He got out of his contract. Now people wonder how he got out of his contract. What happened behind the scenes? So I'm going to just start here. Shakur Stevenson is now under Turki Al-Sheikh. Yeah, Turki got that bag. And like I told people a long time ago, money talk, bullshit walk. And people gonna go where the bag is, right? But that's not the whole reason why Shakur Stevenson is no longer with Matchroom. And I'm gonna get into that. Now, he is under Turki Al-Sheikh. He has also hired Lou DiBella as his promoter now. Now, with the Lou DiBella deal, it's a match-by-match basis, right? And he only had to pay Lou DiBella a flat fee. Now, why does that matter? Because Eddie Hearn was taking way more bread out the pot. Eddie Hearn and Turki Al-Sheikh, they not on good terms. Now, I'm not all the way sure why they fell out, but what I'm hearing is that, Turki Al-Sheikh, when he works with Eddie Hearn is a lot more expensive than the rest of these promoters. So the fee that he have to give to Eddie Hearn is a lot more expensive than the rest of these promoters. Plus, Eddie Hearn has a huge ego. We've heard Eddie Hearn on several occasions talk about if Turki Al-Sheikh comes in and try to take over and basically put all these promoters to the side, he said that he loves that. He said that he loves a fight, and that's exactly what he gonna do. He gonna give Turki all the pushback that he can handle. And he also talked about how Turki can't just come in the game and think that he gonna run boxing because all these other promoters have tried to come in the game in the past and thought they was gonna run boxing or do big things in boxing, and they didn't last. Well, where Eddie Hearn was wrong is that all these other promoters or, whatever you want to call them, that tried to come in boxing that didn't last, they ain't have over $1 trillion behind them. You feel what I'm saying? You can't, how you gonna go to war if you ass niggas ain't got no cheese? You know what I'm talking about? How you gonna go to war if you ain't got no cheese? And Turki Al-Sheikh, can't nobody go to war with him because they ain't got the money to go to war with him. I'm just telling y'all how it is. It is what it is. You get mad and bite blood out your bottom lip if you want to. But back to this whole Shakur Stevenson situation, right? I'm just going to read y'all something that Dan Raphael tweeted, and then I'm going to get more in depth with y'all about what he's talking about. Now, Dan Raphael tweeted about this situation. He said Shakur Stevenson gets a mid-7-figure payday with Zepeda that wasn't mandatory without having to go to purse bid. He also hires Lou DiBella, right, as his promoter on a fight-by-fight basis, right? He's not locked in with a contract with Lou DiBella, right? Meaning that if his next fight, he don't want to have Lou DiBella as his promoter, he don't have to. Now, people saying, well, why is he hiring Lou DiBella as his promoter? Well, just somebody to kind of do the business as promoting the fight, do interviews, talk for him and things like that, kind of a front man. And what I'm hearing is that what Shakur Stevenson has to pay Lou DiBella is way less than what he was having to pay Eddie Hearn for being his promoter, the promoter fee. Now, people wonder what happened. They thought that Shakur Stevenson was still locked in to Matchroom for one more fight. Well, he was. Shakur Stevenson has been bought out of his contract. Yeah, he's been bought out of his contract. The reason why he's with Lou DiBella, another reason why is because Jay Prince has a close relationship to Lou DiBella, and that's who Shakur Stevenson's team got for his promoter. Not Shakur Stevenson. That's who Jay Prince went and got to promote his next fight. The thing behind the scenes, what I'm hearing that once Shakur Stevenson and his team actually talked to Turkey Al-Sheikh, because remember, that was his whole mishap with Shakur. He lashed out at Turkey because he said Turkey was supposed to pay him a number, and then he went way back on the number and all of that, right? Now, Shakur had a middleman talking to Turkey Al-Sheikh. That middleman was Eddie Hearn. Once they sat down with Turkey Al-Sheikh behind the scenes, I'm hearing that, hey, some of the things that Turkey was telling them about the pay and just the business was different from what they was hearing from Eddie Hearn. Yeah, it was a little different from what they was hearing with Eddie Hearn. Plus, Turkey Al-Sheikh got Shakur Stevenson out of his contract. We hear that Shakur was bought out of his contract. I mean, who you think bought him out of his contract? Now Shakur Stevenson is making a mid seven-figure payday. I don't know exactly how much that is, but mid to me is $4 or $5 million, right? Mid is usually $5 million and up, so it's somewhere around $4 or $5 million or more, right? So that's how much he's going to be making now, and it's going to be a lot more than what he was going to be making if it had went the purse bid. But from what I'm hearing is that if it had a winter purse bid, Williams Zepeda and his team, they weren't going to go through with it. They would have pulled out. So Shakur, he did everything he could, everything he had to make sure that this fight happened. If Williams Zepeda had pulled out, Eddie Hearn, he was going to have Shakur Stevenson fight one of his UK guys. Shakur didn't want to do that neither because he wanted a big fight. And, you know, this is a fight with Williams Zepeda that he thinks that he's going to get a lot more recognition, you know, a lot more credit for if he go and whoop Williams Zepeda. Now, what Shakur don't understand is that his haters is going to hate on him regardless, right? They not going to give him no credit for whooping Williams Zepeda. Matter of fact, they ain't going to give him more credit for whooping Williams Zepeda than they gave him for whooping Josh Padley. A hater going to be a hater. So that's one thing that Shakur got to understand. The credit ain't going to come from these guys that just look to hate on you. They just wake up and that's what they do. They just wake up to hate. You know what I'm saying? I ain't never understood it, but hey, it's some people like that in this world and a whole lot of boxing fans. But other than that, yeah, so this was a pretty much, you know, things behind the scenes that was going on when Shakur found out that what Eddie was telling him wasn't everything. It wasn't everything. It wasn't 100% accurate when they sat down with Turkey Al-Sheikh. And there was a whole lot more money on the table, right? So, you know, once I get more information, I will put out the information. But that's all I know now. And like I said, I don't know what went on behind the scenes between Eddie Hearn and Turkey Al-Sheikh. But they definitely fell out, and hopefully they could patch it up, because I think, you know, all these promoters having a great relationship with Turkey Al-Sheikh is better for boxing and boxing fans. You know, when promoters is beefing, especially with Turkey Al-Sheikh, because he the one that's putting on the biggest events, the biggest fights, and got all the money behind him, it ain't good for that to happen, because that just means more fights we ain't gonna get. But I'm glad we getting this Shakur Stevenson and Williams Zepeda finally. And I see a lot of people crying and shit about Shakur and Williams Zepeda being the co-main event, or laughing and pointing fingers. Man, I don't give a damn if it's the co-main event or not. I'm just glad we finally get the fight. You feel me? Now, should Shakur Stevenson be the main event over Edgar Berlanga and Hamza Shiraz? Yeah. But I ain't gonna cry because he ain't the main event, you know? They still fighting. You know what I'm saying? The business part of him not being the main event in the future, that's something that he gonna have to deal with. That ain't none of my business. You feel me? I'm a boxing fan. My business is to watch these fights, report the news to y'all, and, you know, that's what it is. I ain't finna cry about who fighting first and who fighting last and all. It is what it is, man. Anyway, y'all let me know how y'all feel about this whole situation. Drop a comment in the comment section. Make sure you hit the like button, subscribe to the channel. Y'all already know how I do. There you go, talking that boxing again, and I'm gone.